Next up, I'd like to invite a very incredible photographer, Peter Collie. Now, Peter is now based in Sydney after having worked in Canada, the US, England, France, and as well as many other exotic spots. His work appears in magazines such as Vogue, Elle, New York Magazine, GQ, and many others. As well as his editorial work, he has shot campaigns for many major brands and an assortment of musicians and celebrities. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Collie.
Okay, so it's, I see what they mean. You don't think I assume you can hear me in the back because it doesn't. Don't get much of a sense of it here. So I guess I'm getting it finally after all this scary stuff. I'm just talking about the fun of working. I've already been introduced who I am, what I've done. I think they might have some pictures up there, so I don't need to talk too much about different things I've done. But I guess I was just curious who's here today, and if there are if people are already modeling. Any hands up if you're already modeling, and keep them up if you or hands up if you've got an agency that you're dealing through, and then hands up people who aren't modeling but really want to or perform or do something. Okay, so it's mostly people who are already in the industry in some way, and it's just to get an idea of how sort of where we start on things. I guess that my main thing is modeling is probably the center point of what this is about, but at the same time we have TV presenters and dancers and other people. And I think that's important to keep in mind. A lot of people are drawn to these things because they like to perform as well. The modeling itself is quite a narrow field. First, you need to be sort of a size 8 and a certain height range from roughly my height or a little less to 5'11". Anything more or less, you're not likely to be extremely successful, simply because they make clothes in a certain sample size, and if you don't fit that, if they're too small, too big, the sleeve's too short, too long, that's it. So a lot of people, that's not fair, I'm really cute, but I'm 5'5". It's not really, whether people think any of the less of you, it's just a practical thing, it's an industry, there's only one size of samples made, they've got to fit, so that's that. And I'm saying a lot of this too, because a lot of people have dreams and will get led into these scams only because they've tried the main agencies and the mainstream work. They really want it, and they keep going further and further, looking for a way to get in the industry, and often compromising themselves more and more to do so, working for no money, doing or getting involved in more dodgy things. But most of the mainstream business is business; it's just very straight ahead. The one thing too about modeling is that many people too, the tall girl, the tall skinny girl with long legs, you should be a model. That may or may not be true. It's not just your physical attributes. And sometimes girls growing up with those physical attributes end up being less suited to being a model because they're so used to hiding and switching off that when the camera's pointed on, nothing really happens. And there'll be some girl who's got a little less going for her who will be a lot more photogenic. And so I think it is important to understand it's not just the physical attributes, it's a whole acting component of what you give to the camera. On that note too, I think there's a thing, sometimes I see young models who are sort of a bit uppity and acting as though they're in a catwalk show, and I think it's good to keep your own personality in a casting, come in with your personality, bubbly, whatever it is. Clients, when we're casting, respond to that, and we see in your pictures that you can do that kind of cool, high fashion look, but we have to spend a day with you. And the girl who's got a bitchy attitude all day, and the girl who's got a nice attitude, and we're equally keen on each of you. What's the one who's going to be pleasant to be with all day is the one we're going to hire. So keep your personality alive through all of this. And I think the other thing to do with casting is like that too is, present well, but don't overdo it. Keep yourself in good shape, nice hair, but don't. Some girls come in with ridiculous long false nails and square tips. Make our most hate us for hiring her. Those all have to come off. So if you if you present yourself as a pretty but raw canvas, that's the best way. We're pretty good at seeing through everything. And the platform shoes, it's like we think. If I truly look at someone, I think, she's not really that tall, I'll get you to kick the shoes off her. I am sort of the bottom limit of model height. If I'm not looking you eye to eye and you're down there, it's just not going to work. So, and we're all really used to seeing through all this stuff, fake hair extensions, the whole business, that we know what we want to see. Attitude is, I think it's really just about having something going on between the ears, and this happens when you're being photographed as well. You may be a pretty face, but if you, my analogy is always, if you're sitting on a train watching someone next to you, you often have a feeling whether they've had a good day or a bad day. That's because of what they're thinking. They may be thinking, I'm just off to meet my new boyfriend and he's going to give me a present. Really happy, just got the winning lottery ticket. Or somebody else has a dark look on their face and they think, well, their mum just rang and you've got to get home right away, the dog's dying. And that's the same thing. When the camera is pointing at you, what's going on in your head? And it's often not big acting like being on stage with your arms out, but just having that, I think if you think of screen close-ups of an actress in a movie, that kind of thing, you think, she's really sad. And sometimes you just have to think something that makes you sad, unrelated to your day, to get that expression. But that all that stuff that you add makes us love you as a model and have you back. I think most people know the first steps, but I know there were some hands up there, people who haven't been modeling. Always if it sounds too good to be true, it is. And that includes, look at yourself honestly in the mirror, and are you more or less what I've just described? And like the girls in the magazine, if you are this tall, modeling's probably not going to be for you. It doesn't mean you can't be a dancer, a TV presenter, anyone, actress, any one of a number of other things if you've got the desire to perform. And there are people who want to perform, there are people who like to be looked at, and those are the careers to go for. Other people are terrified of being in anything like this where you have people looking at you. And so if you're one of the people who wants to, modeling may not be the thing. If it is, then there are legitimate agencies out there. All the forums and everything people have spoken about will tell you what they are if you don't already know, and your friends. The first step is usually just get some pictures done, preferably by somebody reasonably good and reputable. There's pictures you've already seen. Not a big tra-la-la. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars on this. Just, you probably will spend a bit of money because if you get somebody good, they'll charge you. But it'll be in the hundreds, not the thousands. And all you really need is probably a good headshot, fairly natural, another one quite made up, some shot that shows how you're put together. And this doesn't necessarily mean you're underwear or naked or a swimsuit, it can be. But naked I wouldn't recommend because that just attracts the wrong crowd until you're in Miranda Kerr doing GQ. But in the initial stages, it will definitely attract the wrong crowd. But really, how you're put together, and that can be tights, bodysuit, miniskirt. If you're leggy, show your legs. If you're curvy, show your curves. And if you're straight up and down, show that. All these things are desirable. There's no right or wrong. So it's just people want to be able to see what you look like, but also when they see you're photogenic. You probably already know if you're photogenic from people taking pictures of you, snapshots. Some people look good in every picture, others don't. If you're one that looks good in every picture, chances are you'll have a career in this. So from there, I would always, it depends on the person, but I would always suggest going to your most preferred agency. If you're knocked back, go to your next most preferred one. The only variant in that sometimes is some girls will go, and guys, if we have any here, I don't see a huge male contingent today, but we'll go to one they don't really care about just to get over their first casting fears. And then go, okay, that's what it's going to be like, and then go to the favorite one a little more confident. So if you're in an agency that's supposedly better, but the booker doesn't like you, you're going to be the last one on the list. And when you ring up, they'll say, oh, it's that Lindsay chick again. They're not going to be thinking, they're not going to be look after you, whether you are or not, but I mean, it's human relations. So if you find someone you really click with, you're probably a better starting point there, because they're really going to get you going and care about you. And there is a lot of care in the business. On that note about expectations too, I'm sure I saw some of the people walking in, and you'll be, even if you're all within model dimensions, you'll be all shapes and sizes. And I think the other conflict I notice with a lot of girls modeling is that, say, someone who's had a really successful career, swimsuit modeling and underwear and curvy, saying, oh, I just want to do bizarre, and they tend to want the straight up and down girls. And you'll be working with the bazaar model the next day and say, Jesus, I wish I could crack bras and things. I need to make some real money. All this high-end stuff, there's no money in it. So just stick with what you're naturally suited to, because that's all that's really going to work for you. Some people cross over between the two things, but I think there's a whole lot of realism about not getting into the scams, about getting into the right end of the business. Are you model material? If so, what kind of model material? Am I going to be on FHM? Am I going to be on Vogue? Doesn't really matter. They're both good magazines, and they suit different people. So just be realistic about who you are and what you're going to be successful in. There's been so much about safety and exploitation, people have said, but common sense. In most of the shoots I do, models come alone. I've been around for a long time. The agencies know who you are, and it's through agencies. But if, say, a 15-year-old girl wants to do a test shoot with me, they'll often come with mother, brother, best friend, whatever. And I think that's a good thing. And a lot of people feel awkward about it. I feel happier because I don't want to be accused of something I didn't do either. And that has happened. Some of these things work both ways. It hasn't happened to me, it's happened to people I know. Most of us work always with a team. So we'll have a photographer, a makeup artist, a stylist. And I think that's another one of the clues. If you walk into a shoot and there's only a photographer there, and he doesn't look particularly competent, and I know if it's your first time going somewhere, you won't know the signs, but once somebody's been to a few castings, you know when it doesn't look right. But then there's definitely something wrong. But most of us work all the time with a crew, if there isn't a crew. So I always suggest, come with your mum. I am going to throw her out. Because I think you will not, whether it's your little brother or your mother or your father, most people won't let go and let their inner best performer out with the family there. So often I'll say, well, you'll come. I know, I don't have to explain it letter by letter, but mum will come in, see, they'll start bonding with the makeup artist, makeup will get done, start talking about the clothes, everyone will start to feel really comfortable. If it hasn't already been said, I'll sometimes suggest to them, if you like, I might feel a little uncomfortable. She'll often be polite and say, no, it's okay. But you will get better pictures without people who are too intimate, especially first test shots. It's like imagine trying to do your best stuff with your little brother watching you and making fun of you, or thinking you're going to get teased at the dinner table, or your mom will be telling dad about you. Just get rid of them for a while, but they may just be in the coffee shop across the street with a mobile on. People have spoken about suddenly feeling uncomfortable. Well, you can say, I just have to go in the loo, and you can quickly text someone and say, come and get me. And this isn't right. I think just good common sense. But most of us, castings, shootings, it's very rare I would ever do a casting just on my own either, unless it's with people I know already, with clients I'm dealing with. It's almost a proper casting. There's usually a photographer, there's often a client, there might be somebody else there. There are usually a few of us, and it's more like something you would see on Top Models panel or something. Sometimes quite formal like that with a desk, but there's usually more than one person. And we like it that way too, because everyone's more comfortable, and you'll do more for us at a casting if you feel comfortable than if you're just sort of, I don't know about this. The final thing I'm going to mention, because I think we're having a panel later, it's probably better to leave more time for that for particular questions, is that if I'm dealing with a model agency, the model agency takes care of all the legalities, model releases, fees, all that stuff. I have nothing to do with it. It's all taken care of between the client, the agency, and yourself. I'll sometimes answer a few questions. If, however, it's a personal project I'm doing, or you're working directly without an agent for me for a client, one of the first things I'll do when you walk in is get you to sign a model release. It used to be a paper one. Now it's on the iPad. We fill it in. There's a picture of you, my details, your details. It's emailed to you and me. We each have a copy. This will have different contents. Just make sure that it does reflect your understanding that you are getting paid amount X for doing this. You're not getting paid at all, but you're getting X number of pictures, that the photographer can use them only in certain circumstances, can't sell them if you don't want them to be sold. I mean, there's no right or wrong. Just make sure whatever the arrangement is written in there, you're happy with it, and this will guarantee that you are paid for, you should be paid for, make sure pictures don't appear in place, or you have some legal recourse if pictures appear in a place they don't want to appear. Where it's important to me is if I get your pictures for use, whether it's a commercial client or a book, I want to make sure you don't get a possessive boyfriend like Simon. This has happened to me several times. People getting new, really controlling boyfriends. I don't want any pictures of you anywhere. And that wasn't the agreement when we did the shoot. And so I'm happy to have this piece of paper, and when I hear from that boyfriend that say, that's all well and good, you don't want to share, but it's not going to affect our arrangement here unless you can find a legal way through that. And so that works both ways, and that's to your benefit, it's to my benefit. So a lot of things, it's just really good to have clear understandings. I'm just going to drop off that there because I know we're doing a panel thing. Any particular questions, it's probably better to leave more time for that. Thanks.